What if everything you believe to be true is not actually universally true? What if reality itself is as malleable as the lens through which you view it? Imagine a world where there is no absolute truth, no one size fits all morality, and no universal standard of beauty. Could we handle such a world, or would it collapse into chaos? This is what relativism explores. So, at first glance, relativism might sound like an abstract concept, but it actually reflects and affects each of us in profound ways every day. So, what if I told you that nothing, not even your deepest beliefs or what you consider facts, is as absolute as you have been led to believe? What if truth, beauty, morality, etc., are all shaped by perspective, by culture, and how you think? So, relativism asks us to confront the uncomfortable idea that reality might not be as fixed and immutable as we think. It's a bit like the Heraclitus phrase, you could never step into the same river twice. When we look at something, we will never look at it the same in future. It's relative to where we are and who we are. And it's not just within ourselves, but to compare it to other people and their viewpoints as well. And we also need something to compare what we're looking at against. So there's a lot to sort of unpick here. Um, so let's look at it in this way first. A glass of water. Imagine one. I hand it to you, and you think the glass is half full. But if I hand it to someone else, a different person with a different hand, they see it as half empty. Same glass, same amount of water, but completely different interpretations. Even the size of the glass, the shape of the glass may be deemed good or bad to the person based on what they prefer to hold. Is it heavy or light? What you perceive as true or real depends entirely on your perspective, doesn't it then? So, is there an objective truth, for example, about the water in that glass? Or is it simply relative to the observer's mindset? This is the dilemma at the core of relativism. It suggests that truth, meaning, and even the things we take for granted as real only exist in relation to something else. So think of the world then as a vast, intricate tapestry, each thread connected to every other thread. Each thread is your perspective, your culture, your experiences, and that shapes the overall picture. But from any one vantage point, the tapestry can look very different, can't it? You can't judge the whole picture by a single thread. In the same way, relativism changes us or challenges us to recognize that our understanding of the world is incomplete and limited by our own personal biases and perspectives. So it's not a modern day invention, this. It stretches back to ancient philosophy before smartphones, TikTok, media, and the one of the earliest advocates was Protagoras, the Greek philosopher, who claimed man is the measure of all things. In other words, the truth of something is always measured by the individual. Instead of seeing truth as fixed and an unchanging entity, Protagoras suggested that it was shaped by our personal experiences and our perceptions. Think about that for a second. What if your truth is shaped by who you are, your culture, your experiences, your environment, your expertise? If you were to take someone watching MMA, for example, someone who's just an MMA fan, Then someone who's a judo guy, one's a jiu-jitsu guy, one's a taekwondo guy, one's a karate guy, one's a boxer, one's a Thai boxer. They're all going to see something different. They're going to judge the fight in a particular way based on what they have got in terms of perceptions and experience. So even think of something in this way. Imagine you're drops into a new country, one where the customs are different to your own. What if the truth you've always known, how to greet someone, questions to ask, what considered polite, what is morally acceptable, is often incorrect, isn't it? When you move into this new culture, so do you have to start seeing things through a different eye? Truth, ethics, reality are therefore not universal, but shaped by the culture and environment in which they exist. Even though relativism challenges the universality of truth, it doesn't mean everything is subjective and equally valid. Nietzsche, for instance, introduced the idea of perspectivism, that different perspectives may all be valid, but some are more valid or more practical than others. So there are some different phases of relativism. Metaphysical relativism, first of all. If you're looking at a tree, to you it's a tree, a solid fixed object, but maybe that's not true. Does the tree exist in isolation? Its very existence is actually the relationship to everything around it, the ground, the sky, the grass, other trees, the animals, the habitat, and even the person standing before it. So reality then is not just a collection of isolated objects, but it's an interconnected web. So, for example, a puzzle. Before when you get out of the box, those pieces make up the picture. They don't mean anything on their own, and that's what metaphysical relativism is trying to establish or detail. You've then got epistemological or cognitive relativism, which is knowledge itself. Imagine if you're looking at a cloud, to you it's puffy white mass in the sky, but to a meteorologist, it's a type of cloud that indicates certain weather patterns. To a poet, it might symbolize something different, and they might see the art within there. What's true about the cloud is shaped by the perspective of the individual, doesn't it? And your life is the same. Are you looking at things in the wrong way based on your experiences and what you think and your mindset? So, can we ever truly know anything without interpreting it through the lens of our own experience? We're never going to be able to. Or or is all knowledge in the end relative to the individual perceiving it? For some people, certain songs are great, and for other people, they're terrible. What influences that perspective? What about moral relativism? What's right and wrong? Different parts of the world have different ideas about this. Some cultures, acceptable behaviour is X. In other countries, it's Y. You can't say that culture is completely wrong because it's relative to what they believe to be right. Cultural, historical, personal context. Some societies believe it's wrong to eat meat, while others see meat as a fundamental part of their culture. Who's right? I mean, I've got my opinion, and you probably have yours, but the answer isn't really clear in some ways because they can both have arguments. What about aesthetic relativism? They say beauty's in the eye of the beholder, don't they? To you, that girl might be 10 out of 10. To someone else, it might be a 4, a 5. You might find her wonderful to talk to, someone else might find her annoying. In some cultures, certain things are attractive. In other cultures, certain things are attractive in a different way. Is beauty simply a reflection of the viewer's perspective? So why does relativism matter? Why should we care about it? Why should we entertain the idea that these things, morality, beauty, truth, might not be universal? Here's why. Because relativism opens a door to deeper understanding. It forces us to confront our biases, our conditioning, and the assumptions that we've built. Because instead of seeing the world as binary, black and white, right or wrong, relativism invites us to appreciate the nuance, the complexity of the human experience. Questions might come to you, such as, how does my perspective shape my truth? And how can I understand and engage with perspectives that are different from mine? Getting another person's viewpoint. And you might find that they have got a better perspective than you. It helps us to embrace complexity because life is not simple and nothing is simple in this realm. So, can you be more open-minded? Can you understand that you might have been putting your own personal filter on something that is not necessarily going to allow you to see things correctly? You have put your own lens on, like beer goggles. Is that really the best way to go through life with your own beer goggles? And there's no other way that you can do it, though, is there? This is why it's quite an interesting little area. But can we maybe open ourselves up and look at what would be a more beneficial perspective to see more of what's going on? So, what are you looking at but not seeing in the correct way?